Hello there and welcome to another Locked In Conversation. I'm Charlotte Gibson and today I'm joined by Natalie Scott, founder of Natalie Scott Empowers. This video is about financial wellness, but specifically looking at the Gen Zs and the Millennials who are renownedly tricky to engage with on the topic. Now, a recent survey that was conducted, or piece of research that was conducted by the ONS, found that 40% of people aged between 22 and 29 have less than £1,000 in savings. It's therefore really important to try and help your younger employees engage with their finances for that rainy day and for retirement. So my first question to you, Natalie, is what are the main challenges that Millennials and Gen Zs face when it comes to their financial well-being?
I think it's one of two things. So one is actually understanding what their priorities are, because some people are not sure, and definitely being overwhelmed by the financial stability or instability, I should say, of themselves. And that's simply because we're not taught it. You know, in school, we weren't taught about money or financial institutions and all the jargon explained. So when we go into the real world, we're kind of having to pick up the pieces and kind of work our way around it. So I do get a lot of people that may understand a little bit, but they're so scared to start because they don't want to make a mistake. They're not too sure where to start. No one in their family knows because, you know, it keeps on changing generation to generation. So they're literally at loggerheads and not sure what to do. And I think with that, it creates like a lack of vision for them. They don't understand the impact of really taking the steps to figure out their financial futures because they just don't know how to start now. So they can't even see 40 years from here.
I think that's a really interesting point, actually. The self-discovery takes a number of years to sort of overcome and get your head around. I think now with automatic enrollment and things like that, it certainly helps accelerate that process a little bit. But it certainly doesn't accelerate the understanding of sort of what it means to be financially secure and how to manage your finances. You know, you think back to your early 20s, you're maybe leaving home for the first time, you've got quite a lot of new financial commitments which may not have been there before. Plus, of course, you've got your social life and you've got all the other aspects which, you know, tot up. So how do you recommend they prioritise the priorities?
You have to have a plan. A lot of people say they want to do this and do that, but they haven't got a plan. So you have to have a plan. How do we do this? We budget. We look at what's coming in and what's going out. And then we start to round up our spending because we want to save. Sometimes when you tell someone, especially a young person, to put X amount away each month, they're scared by it. They feel like they can't do it when they probably can. So if we round up their spending, and that way we can put some money aside to go towards a saving. So when I say round up your spending, there's so many different apps out there where if you spend like £1.30, it will round it up to the nearest 10. So that 70p can be invested, or that 70p can go into a savings account for you. So it's a good way just to like try your hand at saving, and it's a really like lazy way to automatically do it. So I'll definitely say that. And always pay yourself first. Pay yourself first definitely means as soon as you get paid, put money aside either into your investing, so that'll be your pension, savings for your short-term goals, long-term goals, whatever your goals are, get into the habit of saving because your future self will definitely thank you for it. And if you can't do it yourself, again, there's so many apps out there like Monzo, Starling, the list goes on. Gen Z, you're born into technology, so there's no excuse. You will not be left behind.
So you mentioned the rounding up savings there through Monzo and other apps are available. But then you've got the sort of the main financial products as well that a typical financial advisor may recommend you go towards. How do you go about explaining what these are, sort of a younger person who may not be familiar with what these types of products are?
What I do, I ask them first off, because I'm a true believer, do you have an ISA? They're like, what's an ISA? So I explain, it's an individual savings account that allows you to save tax-free up to the amount of £20,000. In that respond, I don't have £20,000. You don't need to have £20,000. That's just the limit. For me, I either talk about cash ISAs or a stocks and shares ISA. So I kind of get them to understand it's like having a savings account, but it's tax free. And I think when you put the word free in anything, when you talk to young people, they're automatically like drawn in. So that's always a win. You get obviously a good benefit. You get usually higher interest rate compared to a normal savings account. What happens is each tax year, that £20,000 gets renewed. So if you don't spend up to £20,000 for the first tax year, you've got another chance to do it again. And this is why it's so great to save as much money as you can. And there's so many products available out there now. And again, I keep saying, because you're Gen Z or Millennial, you might be quite techie. There's so many like user-friendly products like Moneybox that are really, really helpful into understanding your ISAs and to save as much money as possible. Also, what I would say is there's other, obviously, a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Sophisticated, different like products out there as well. So we leave ISAs alone, then we talk about pensions and SIPs. And to be fair, a lot of our generation is becoming quite entrepreneurial. So what that means is that they won't benefit from a workplace pension. So in this case, they might have to look at a private personal pension or a SIP. So therefore, I explain to them what these are. Now, SIPs are not for everybody, simply because they can be quite intricate and you sometimes have to know something about finance because it's an account that you manage on your own. But with personal and private pensions, there's so many accounts out there that will obviously do a risk assessment with you and get something started. So if you are self-employed or you're a business owner, you will not be left behind in regards to not having a workplace pension. But it is important, it's more so important that you have one and you pay in as much as you can, because obviously you don't have the benefit of your workplace paying into.
I think one of the big misconceptions when it comes to retirement is that the state will basically pay for your pension, you get the state pension. I think if you could tell somebody that they would have to live off £8,000 a year and go, okay, well, what would you do with £8,000 a year? Wouldn't go very far. So I think getting people to understand that even if we are lucky enough to have a state pension by the time we retire, which is questionable at best, you will still need to put money aside if you're not going to live in absolute poverty when you are retired. And I think the other thing people forget about as well is that actually now we are living longer, life expectancy is going. You retire at 67, 68 years old, you're still going to be retired for almost as long as you were working. And again, just getting your head around that, I think people may go, oh, actually, I start now, that probably will help me later on. So next question to you then, Natalie, is if you could give your 20-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
So many things to tell her. So many things. One thing I'll definitely tell her is that you're 20 years old and in 2 years' time, there's a thing called the workplace pension scheme that's going to be introduced. Do not opt out. Another thing I'll tell her is read The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Read that book. Don't wait 5 years down the line to read it. Read it now and get investing quicker. And another thing I would tell her is to save. She's a good saver. She's not that bad, but save with purpose. Put a sign up somewhere in your room and put what you want to save for and get it done. That's the 3 things I'll definitely tell her to do. I
absolutely love that advice to yourself. And it definitely sounds like you're a little bit further on in the old financial stability than I was at 20. So one of the largest bits of feedback that I get from my clients, they just don't really know where to start. So what are your top tips for businesses in terms of getting them to engage in a more productive way with their younger employees?
I'll definitely say you've got to speak their language. And if you don't know how to speak their language, definitely get someone who does, because young people tend to relate to other young people. So if you've got a group of men, in their suits and talking at us about money, we're not going to listen. So you need to get young people who are a bit clued up with money, or there's so many resources out there. For instance, young people, where can you find them today? On social media. So who are they following? Who are they listening to? What podcasts are they listening to? And get people who they're listening to come in and just do a workshop with them and talk to them about money and talk to them about the importance of starting to save for your retirement now. So I think that's the best way to engage with them. And also, if that's not an option straight away and you might just have some reading material to give them, just lose the jargon. Also, what I would suggest for employers as well is to encourage their young employees to contribute a bit more. If you're a 20-year-old young person and your salary is £20,000 a year and you're paying 3%, so that's £600 a year. If you was to increase it by just 1%, which brings your total to £800 per year, by the time you retire at 67, that amount would have increased by over £46,000. And that's because of the power of compounding and compound interest. So it's really easy just to increase it by 1% today. And that will probably mean another £20 coming out of your account each month. It's really not a lot. So I'll definitely encourage employers to let their employees know the differences between pension contributions, and by increasing it by 1% or 2%, and how it will make a real big difference to their future.
Thank you so much, Natalie. I think this has been really, really helpful for the viewers today. Thank you very much, everyone. This is Locked In Conversations. See you next time.